Thank the force. We are live. Going to talk a little Ryan Johnson later this evening. I'm excited for that. It is Thursday night, Star Wars Newsnet Live, a solo Star Wars Newsnet Live because everyone's gone except for me. So we're going to be here. I am very excited though because we have a few really fun things to talk about. I know everyone's been talking about Andor. We have the Andor Emmy nominations. Congratulations to everyone involved on Andor. We'll go through like all of those nominations. I have a few that I was really excited about. And then, of course, we got to talk about who got snubbed because obviously we're Star Wars fans here. And as Star Wars fans, we really want Star Wars to succeed. And while I don't think the success of Andor is 100% tied to getting every single nomination, I do have strong feelings about some of our favorite actors on this show who aren't getting maybe the chance to be recognized the way that I would have liked, especially after what a great show that we got with Andor. And I also have, and I'm telling you right now that these are 5 half-baked ideas for how Star Wars can go to the future beyond the Skywalker saga. I have not fleshed these out fully, but I have 5 unique ideas, interesting ideas, I believe to be interesting. I guess you will find out shortly on the future of Star Wars. So I'm trying to figure out like where I want to start, but I have to begin really fast, and then we'll talk like guys, I got all the things queued up here to talk about tonight. We got all the things. But I do have to mention that I was way behind on the High Republic Trials of the Jedi, the last High Republic book, and so I did not get to read it until oh my goodness, like a few days ago. And I thought I had my book here. I have 2 copies. One, shout out to Colin from Star Wars Newsnet who gave me a signed copy from Charles Soule. And then I have another special edition copy that I bought. And I was not expecting the book to hit me as hard as it did, even though I probably should have. I have this giant hole in my life now, I feel like, because the High Republic has been probably the most influential series of books that I've read since I was a little kid. So saying goodbye to that was a lot. But okay, here we go. Andor season 2 received 14 Emmy nominations, and I am thrilled that Andor was able to get those Emmy nominations. I was hoping for a few more, just given the fact that the first season we were able to see Andor get a little bit more than like we got. I think it was like 8. I think it got in season 1, but 14 for season 2 is just fine. But let me just read through the list really fast. Look at that ad off. I'll pull up the Star Wars Newsnet article. But this was the list of all of the nominations that Andor received. If you haven't seen it yet, like here it is really fast. We had Outstanding Drama Series, Outstanding Guest Actor for Forrest Whitaker, Outstanding Directing in Who Are You, which was obviously a great episode. We had Outstanding Character Voiceover Performance, Alan Tudyk, of course. Outstanding Writing for Welcome to the Rebellion, which I was so excited about. That's probably the one that I was most excited about, was the Outstanding Writing, because that episode is just so important to me as a Star Wars fan and is my favorite episode, I think, of the series right now. That could change at times. Outstanding production design for Who Are You? Outstanding cinematography, outstanding fantasy sci-fi costumes, picture editing, musical composition, original music and lyrics for Who Are You / We Are the Gore. Amazing. That better win. Oh my goodness. If it doesn't win, we riot in the streets. Okay, that probably wasn't the best joke considering Gore was about right. Okay, moving on. Outstanding sound editing and sound mixing and special effects. So 14 like worthy nominations. I don't think you'll see anyone out there saying that any of those should not have been nominated. But I do think there were 5 individuals that got snubbed. I'm not saying that if your list looks different than my 5, then you're crazy. But these are the 5 people I most wanted to see get a nomination. And I'll tell you, I left out one I think almost everyone's going to disagree with me on, but I just feel very strongly about these 5. RG, yes, I will get to Genevieve O'Reilly in a second. It just seems odd that Andor would be nominated for Best Drama Series, and then we have no actors outside of Forrest Whitaker who well-deserved nomination, of course, but out of the mainstays of the show, no one gets a nomination was just a little bit frustrating. Obviously, the competition was intense. The competition was crazy, like it jam-packed this year. But with that being said, sometimes it's frustrating. You see other shows, they get like these multiple noms. I'm like, we couldn't slide one to Andor. But here we go. My number one most snubbed person at the Emmys, I have to go with Diego Luna. And I just feel like there were a few episodes they could have given him like a nom for and highlighted him specifically, which I think the very last episode when he gives his plea to acting on, the news from Luthen, the way he delivers that was the way that only Diego Luna could have delivered that argument to like the council, like the rebel leaders there. Only he could have said it the way he did. And he got nominated season 1, I believe. So season 2, I thought for sure he would get a nomination considering maybe some of the buzz around Andor. Obviously, there's a lot of steep competition, but I was really sad that Diego didn't get a nomination here, knowing that he's done with Star Wars and we're not going to be seeing him again. And there won't be another opportunity for him to get recognized on like this stage. So Diego was one that I really wanted to see get that nomination. My number two most snubbed person. Okay. This one might surprise you all. This one might surprise you. I thought it was Elizabeth Dulau. She is amazing as Clea. I thought she was the star of the show for season 2 in many ways, like the surprise star of the show. We know from season 1 that Clea is obviously incredibly important to the rebellion, but I thought for her work in one of the last few episodes, they could have maybe, shown some of that for her nomination, or the episode where she is getting the sound device from, what's his name? Davos Golden's artifact exhibit. She's brilliant in that. And the fact that we just see her character go through so many evolutions in this season and get shaken to her core, come out on the other side of it. And we know how integral she was to the rebellion. And just her performance was the thing that surprised me the most from the season. I knew that Diego was going to deliver. I knew that Genevieve O'Reilly was going to deliver. I knew that Stellan Skarsgård, was going to deliver. There was never any doubts in my mind that these individuals were going to give us a very high quality performance. And I wasn't doubting Elizabeth, but I was so moved by her performance. I felt as if she deserved that nomination over anyone else in Andor besides Diego. And I feel really strongly about that. And that's not a knock on anyone else. I think when you just think about shows like Andor, the competition for who does the best job or quote unquote, who's the best performance in the series the competition is so stiff that you can't argue either way. Like if you want to put some of the people I don't have on this list, if you want to vault them to the top, you're not going to get a big argument for me. Exactly. And exactly, RG. Episode 10 or 11. Was it when she has to kill Luthen? Yeah, that was a really great episode. She's phenomenal whenever we watch her go through that, inner struggle. I thought was, fantastic on her part. Okay, number 3 person that I felt like got the greatest snub on the Emmy snubs list here. And I have to say it's Genevieve O'Reilly. Okay. Genevieve O'Reilly, her speech in Welcome to the Rebellion, the monster will come for us all. This has to be up there with some of the best Star Wars we have ever received. Her transformation from someone who got cut out of Revenge of the Sith to being in a little bit of Rogue One to then being a mainstay on one of the great shows that we've had in sci-fi ever should have been celebrated, should have gotten a chance to be celebrated. And her performance is just so charismatic. She is able to deliver the speeches in this while also delivering on every single emotional beat that you need from a character like her. I don't know about you guys, but I always, growing up when I watched Return of the Jedi and about Mon Mothma, you have video games where she might show up and you have books where Mon Mothma plays a role in books. I never really felt like Mon Mothma was really that important, was never moved by her character in Return of the Jedi. That's not to discount the performance by the original Mon Mothma actress, but it was never someone that I was really drawn to outside of just making the jokes of the memes of many Bothans died to deliver to bring us this information. No knock against Mon Mothma, but Genevieve O'Reilly through Andor has brought this character to life in a spotlight in ways I never would have thought possible. And so I really was hoping that she would get a nomination for her role in Andor season 2. And Welcome to the Rebellion might be like my favorite episode of any Star Wars ever. Like it really might be. I don't think that that's an exaggeration for some people as well. All right, now we get into it's really hard to make the cut. Obviously, there's probably, 4 people that you look at here. You have, Stellan Skarsgård, you have Denise Go, you have Adria Arjona, and you have Kyle Soller. And so number 4, I'm gonna say Kyle Soller. Like his role and performance as Cyril, especially in the episode "Who Are You," I felt like deserved a nomination. That image right there on your screen right now. And if you're listening to this later on, Spotify or Apple, go ahead and, give us a review there, of course, please. 5-star review. And if you're watching right now, like and subscribe to the channel, of course. But Kyle Soller, with his performance in Who Are You, this image right here on the screen where he is in real time processing how his whole life has been essentially meaningless. And he has been a pawn in the Empire's game this entire time. And what he has spent his whole life thinking about and pursuing and sacrificing for has all been for the sake of evil, has all been for something he is realizing isn't what he thought it was supposed to be. And he says it all without saying very many words in the last 30 minutes of this episode. And to me, that is the hallmark of why he is so just incredible in this particular episode. Of course, we will not get an Emmy nomination for Kyle Soller. However, we will always have his laying on the bed meme when his mom Edie came to visit. And you know what? Some things are better than anything else. Like you can't take that away from us. The meme will always resonate with Star Wars fans, whether he gets a nomination or not. So rest in peace, people who have been, on the Kyle Soller Emmy train. But don't worry, we have the laughs for life. And my number 5, I'm not going with Denise Go. I'm not going with Stellan Skarsgård. I'm actually going to go with Adria Arjona. I have to tell you that I am such a big Bix fan. And season 2, I thought Bix had maybe the toughest job. Like Adria had the toughest job of anyone on the show because of the wide display of emotions, of physicality that she had to present to this character. You could have nominated her for and sent in a bunch of different pieces for her role, because from the very beginning of the season, we see her having to overcome an attempt at, sexual assault, and having to watch her display a sense of, dread, fear, and also self-empowerment, like all in that short amount of time. We watch her as a character. She is battling with, drug abuse in this season, but also having to show incredible resiliency, hide this from Cassian, and show incredible strength, grit, determination. And again, she doesn't have the most lines as well, but we see everything through her face, through those brief interactions that we get. And then, of course, that final monologue that she delivers where she gives Cassian the final boost that he needs to really commit to the rebellion, because he has no choice at this point because she's gone. I thought deserved a nomination. Like that's the order I would have put in. And I don't, I'm not going to apologize for that order. I obviously understand if some people felt like Stellan Skarsgård deserved a nomination for his role as Luthen. Can't argue with that. It was really hard to leave Denise Go off this list because I thought Dedra was one of the best characters in the show. And so this cast was fantastic. And I know that we're going to have chances to celebrate Andor. I hope that, maybe they can get a win here or there in some of these other categories. It's not going to win Best Drama Series, of course. But, my hope is that we will be able to see Andor pull out a few wins. And, just shout out again to every single person who worked on this show, because this one's going to be timeless. Every single one of them should be so proud of what they put into it. And us as Star Wars fans are blessed that we're going to have this to go back and watch and, show our friends and families for the next, bajillion years after this. So that's Andor, 14 Emmy nominations. I'm really excited about that. So, all right. 15 minutes in, we've talked about Andor. I promised, here we go. This is going to be, I think some of this might be a little controversial. So I'm excited about this. I have 5 half-baked ideas. Half-baked. These are not all the way fallout. I just want to throw them out there and see if something sticks. Ideas for where Star Wars should go in the future beyond the Skywalker saga and what that looks like. I have 5 ideas for how we can either A, get completely new fans invested, build on the coalition we have already, appeal to a wide, diverse base of Star Wars fans, and also start fairly fresh. Okay, so I have 5 ideas. All right, number 1. Okay, this one is going to piggyback a little bit on some things we've seen in the High Republic. Okay, we're going to throw Rey in here. We're going to say we're going to have a new Jedi Order series. Okay, what if I told you that a new Rey Jedi Order movie is the main antagonist is going to be a group of rejected Jedi individuals. So think about in the High Republic, there's a character called the Mother, and she basically was not force sensitive enough to be asked to join the Jedi, but her sister was. So the Jedi rejected this individual, and she's so jaded, so upset, so frustrated as she moves through life that she essentially starts her own cult. She leads this cult and basically raises them up to hate the Force and to abhor the Force. Like anyone who uses the Force sucks, essentially. And so the idea would be, what if when Rey is rebuilding the Jedi Order, and she's trying to do a good job, she's trying to do the best job she can, but there are individuals, because Rey is one person and she's slowly creating this Jedi Order, but there's a group of individuals that maybe feel jaded and upset that they weren't deemed worthy to join this new Jedi Order. And Rey doesn't have the luxury of falling back on, the Qui-Gons, the Mace Windus, the Yodas, the, whoever else in the prequels the Obi-Wans, she doesn't have the Depa Balabas, the Kit Fistos. She doesn't have the luxury of falling back on all of these other experienced individuals that she can ask for guidance. And we know the tricky things with the Force Ghosts. So what if the antagonist is a group of, quote unquote, lesser Force users, maybe not as powerful as, say, a Rey, or if, Finn is now a Jedi, but they are frustrated they were not allowed into this select group. So they kind of start their own little sect and start their own little Force cult, so to speak. And they start gaining following because the galaxy's so fractured at this point that it's really easy to create pockets of like fomenting here and there and to instigate, a pseudo government outside of whatever it is they're trying to establish. And this is an opportunity where we could really see growth from Rey. And this could be the way that the new Jedi Order is essentially built, is through these mistakes that she makes in the beginning, because she has to learn from her own mistakes about who maybe is and isn't allowed, and should they open the gates a little bit more for who can be a Jedi. And I think about even in Ahsoka, how I wasn't a fan of Sabine being Force sensitive, because I just felt like Rebels, you can tie that not together from Rebels, you can draw those lines of comparison, but I never felt like it was as smooth as some people would have liked to say. I kind of wish that she had stayed off and just been a Mandalorian. But with that being said, we see the potential that she has as a Jedi through the Force, right? And so I think it'd be interesting if you were able to create like a group of Force users who maybe just need a little bit more guidance, but have potential, but maybe with the Order deems otherwise. Okay, so that's half-baked idea number 1. Okay, half-baked idea number 2. All right, listen up on this one. This is still going to have to do with Rey. All right, we're still doing something with Rey. This is going to take place. What if this was like where the Simon Kinberg trilogy went in? We know that there's a new trilogy by Simon Kinberg, right? What if, and we have Peridia that's been established in the Ahsoka series. We have this whole new galaxy to play with, okay? What if we introduced an entire like new group of Force users. They're not Sith, they're not Jedi, but they are very antagonistic Force users, a whole culture centered around these individuals that use the Force that invade from this other galaxy and seek to supplant the Jedi because they see the Jedi as a threat, as an affront to them. And you could tie in here and there little Easter eggs from maybe things that happen in Ahsoka season 2. But if we're trying to go in the future, maybe we just get even bigger and we have this multi-galactic conflict in a sense where you have outside galactic invaders. That kind of ties into what we've seen in some Legend stuff. Obviously, the Yuzon Vong aren't necessarily all of them like Force users, but this would also be a similar thing where we have invaders from another galaxy or invaders from outside our main galaxy coming in and trying to do something. And this is an interesting time period for for the galaxy because the Republic isn't gone and we've gotten rid of Palpatine. The First Order is gone. Where do we go from here? And I think it'd be interesting if you fast forward a few years and you're at the precipice of rebuilding something that's been fractured for so long, and then boom, you drop in a mighty power that has powers beyond what Rey is able to comprehend. She's having to try to rebuild her own Jedi Order. She's probably a fixture and a leader in the galaxy, and also now having to deal with this other existential threat. And I was thinking about when they came in, what if they weren't like a immediate antagonist, like make an antagonist in disguise, like almost like a wolf in sheep's clothing, so to speak, where they're coming in to solve all of the problems and we don't even know that they're from another galaxy at first, and then our eyes are slowly awakened. Rey is very skeptical of what's happening. She's not necessarily locked in on these new people. And then all of a sudden it starts to be revealed over the course of the trilogy, boom, from another galaxy. And then there's so many things that you can open up in the Star Wars world. But this, again, gives Rey a new purpose, like for her story. She is moving beyond the way her story is written in the trilogy is she's trying to seek other people to be the hope, to be the savior, to be the Jedi, the hero that everyone needs, until she realizes herself that she is that hero. And so now we've entered this phase where she is the hero. She knows she needs to rebuild the Jedi, but what does it look like for her to be the leader of a group and then have competition that challenges her? And the galaxy as a whole probably is looking to her for answers because she is this larger than life being. But what if there was an entire another group that had those same powers, maybe amplified even more, and are in greater numbers than what she has right now, and seek to offer the answers that she is trying to provide, and maybe the galaxy turns like another way. So I thought that was an interesting one for how we might be able to throw that out there. So that's a half-baked idea, number 2. Okay, number 3, and this one is not something that we have not heard of. Okay, so before you scream at me, roll your eyes and jump away. So we have Mara Jade on the screen here, and obviously Mara Jade is one of the most treasured, beloved, hyped up characters from Legends. And the way that the sequels have gone, it's really impossible at this point to write in Mara Jade into Star Wars the way that she was originally intended, which was ultimately she marries Luke Skywalker, right? That can't happen anymore based off of what happens in the sequels, which I'm a fan of The Last Jedi. I'm a fan of The Force Awakens. I like the sequels. So what if we readapt a Mara Jade character to be the antagonist to a Rey post, the post Rise of Skywalker? All we see in the Rise of Skywalker, all we see in Legends is Palpatine has all of these contingency plans, right? He has this contingency, that contingency. He's going to have his clones. He's going to have other people. And we know that Mara Jade is like a hand-picked student, a hand-picked pupil of him, that he wants to seek vengeance, kill Luke Skywalker, all of those things, right? But what if we readapt her character? And I don't think they'll ever do this. This is why it's half-baked. What if they readapted her character, though, to where she was a agent in waiting and she was consulting on Exegol and she wasn't just didn't happen to be there. You could easily, work that in. Wasn't couldn't quite make it in time. She gets there, sees the ashes of, Exegol, and she leaves, and now she has a new mission, which is to annihilate Rey, to make sure that her Jedi Order cannot thrive. And so she's working in the shadows. She's trying to build this coalition, and Rey has a female antagonist to go against, which could be interesting. And you could rework this in a way where I think it stays true to the character that Mara Jade was originally written to be, but also allows you to rework some of those things that don't work in today's canon, if that makes sense. That to me seems like an easy win if handled correctly. If handled incorrectly, this is obviously something that's going to backfire extremely quickly. Okay, so that's half-baked idea number 3. All right, I have half-baked idea number 4, and this one is going to shift away from Rey. We've been with 3 different Rey things. This is actually with a movie that starts filming in a couple months, okay? And I picked this picture of Ryan Gosling. We have this one because it's Blade Runner, and it's the most Star Warsy look because of the, with the gun and, all that kind of stuff. So here's the idea, is that the villain that is going up against Ryan Gosling in Starfighter is a spurned lover, okay, that they once held the same ideology, and then that ideology changes for Gosling, and then he leaves her. So we have the whole, makes it very personal. The main villain that's coming after him, maybe it's Mia Goth, maybe it's another woman they bring on to play in this role. But I like the idea of there being some sort of romantic history between himself and the antagonist, and he has spurned her in some way, or maybe, she hurt him. I don't know, but it makes it very personal between the two. But I don't like leaving it just as she's out for revenge because he treated her badly. No, like, let's give it more depth than that, right? Let's say that these two once shared, when they were together, some sort of ideological principles that they held true. And, they're after Ryan Gosling's nephew, right? So his nephew has some sort of, maybe he's force sensitive, has some sort of special gift, right? And now he branches off away from his former lover because she wanted to use, him for some other purpose. And he said, that's not what I'm all about. No, not at all. We got to get him out of here. And then not only does she feel betrayed because a lover once is now gone, but also because, oh, I thought we were in this together trying to achieve this common goal, and suddenly you get cold feet, or you feel like this isn't for you anymore. So you and your nephew go off when I actually need the nephew to fulfill this. And you can have a couple of those flashback sequences. You allow Ryan Gosling, I think, to slide into his wheelhouse that he can really deliver in, which is he's obviously going to deliver the action-packed scenes that you want. He's going to give the great character shtick that he dives into, but now you kind of give him that romantic element where he can really play off that other actor, and the two of them can have some great banter, some great back and forth. It allows for even a little bit more humor, but it can still get personal very quickly. So I like the idea of you giving that romantic element in Gosling, but it's not necessarily this happy, lovey-dovey relationship. This is a spurned, we are no longer together. Oh my gosh, this is so personal. And it goes beyond that because it's the ideological, battle that they're having as well. So I like the idea of giving Gosling a little bit more than just, oh, there's some pirates after him because his nephew has special powers, or him and his nephew stole something. I like the idea of going a little bit beyond that. So that's half-baked idea number 4. Okay. Half-baked idea number 5. You have to bear with me on this one, okay? So imagine a universe in Star Wars, okay? Where fast forward, I don't know, 1,000 years in the future. 1,000 years. Think about what that means. The entirety of the Skywalker saga takes place over what, like 60 years, something like that? Now, fast forward 1,000 years into the future, okay? We now exist in a future where the Force itself and the use of it is banned from society, where the ruling class of the galaxy has never been more united, actually. The galaxy has come together in a unique way, but anyone displaying is a unique way. It's obviously not a positive way because the Force is banned, right? So I'm not trying to say that this is good. This could be some sort of new imperial type thing, but disguised as some sort of populist movement that they're not even aware at the time, right? So the Force is banned, and Force users are hunted and immediately put on trial. But if you ever watched like Star Trek, we're going to give them like a Cardassian trial. And for those of you who don't watch Star Trek and have no idea what a Cardassian trial is, it basically means you're guilty and we're going to just display your guilt to everyone in who's watching, right? So I just would love to see Star Wars we're 1,000 years beyond. We've forgotten the legends of Luke Skywalker. The Jedi have been, because of some great disaster event, some sort of horrible thing that happened before, we decided to pivot so hard to the right that this is no longer allowed, that we're going to suppress all people who show signs of Force sensitivity. They must hide that from themselves. And this is different from Order 66. Don't get me wrong. Don't hear what I'm not saying here. And in that I just want to redo, the Jedi in hiding. No, this is not, because that's a Force user at the top. That's just the Sith. This isn't like Force users going against other Force users. This is essentially, what if that somehow we got to a point where we felt like using the Force was considered, evil, and these people that could do these incredible things, like, we don't want that. It's a sense of, we want to return to normalcy, almost like if our society has dumbed down to the point. Think of like the story of Harrison Bergeron, but in Star Wars. And if you're not familiar with Harrison Bergeron, it's this quote unquote equal society, right? Where everyone is on the level playing field, where if you're like a super athlete, you have to wear 100-pound weights all the time to make you the same speed as everyone else, because it's not fair that you're faster than another person or stronger than another person. So we make everyone on the same level. And you could apply something similar to the galaxy far, far away, where there is this group of people who are so exceptional. We need to take away their exceptionalities, and we need to make them into, regular people through fear, through these handicaps that they put on them. And I think that would be a very interesting story, because then you could get into why are the Jedi so necessary? Why is the Force so necessary beyond just, we must, defeat the dark side of the Force? This is almost like the Force itself, and the belief in it, the manifestation of it, the idea of the Jedi. It is critical and essential to the galaxy functioning at optimal levels. Like, who is there to pursue the light? And the Force itself is being stifled and not allowed to thrive, because the people that it is called, the destiny that it has put on people, somehow in society, we have gotten to the point where we do not want that to happen. And so maybe some cataclysmic event is going to take place, and the only way to stop it is if this group of individuals risks it all to use the Force. And we have this almost drama like movie that takes place where we see Jedi, or people that learn what Jedi are. Like, they go and they learn the secrets of Luke Skywalker, of Rey Skywalker, of the Jedi Order of old, the High Republic, the Old Republic. Like, they're going in different places where they're learning about what we already know. So like, we're ahead of them a little bit, but we're so behind at the same time, because we're still learning about this new galaxy where all of the abilities that we're used to seeing are not allowed. And normally in Star Wars, when we see a Jedi do something incredible, like, they're celebrated, or people are in awe of the abilities and feats of the Force users. But now it's, oh my gosh, he used the Force, like, he must be stopped. This should not be allowed. And so now we're in a situation where it's like reversed. And so I thought that would be an interesting idea, where basically the Force is forbidden, and what do we do? And I think having like Jedi or Force users, new Jedi, being put on trial That'd be very interesting to see, like a Jedi on trial in a way that we've never really seen that before, outside of when the Clone Wars a couple times where Ahsoka is on trial. But this would be a very different context that we live in. Now, the main argument that might come into play here from people is that, oh my goodness, how dare you sully the legacy of the Skywalkers by 1,000 years from now? People aren't even allowed to use the Force. We just went through in episode 7, Luke Skywalker's a myth, and people don't know about Luke anymore. You're going to do that again? No, don't hear what I'm not saying again. I think the idea of creating a world where we, as an audience, are watching our characters rediscover the things that we already know to be true could be fascinating, and see how they interpret what happened before and apply it to their context that they're in 1,000 years later could be fascinating. It's a way. So the reason I like that too is it's something fresh, unique that we haven't seen before on the big screen in Star Wars, and it could be a way for Star Wars to move forward. You can to gain a new footing, because this is like a clean slate, and the fact that we would have to build up to a point where Force is accepted again. So again, 5 half-baked ideas. Number 1 was the Rey Jedi Order combating rejected Force individuals, essentially. Massive amount of other Galaxy Force users arriving on the scene. We have readapting Mara Jade. We have Ryan Gosling and the villain of that movie being a spurned lover, and their shared ideology breaks apart. So it's very personal. And then a super 1,000 years into the future story where the Force is banned and is forbidden, and everyone has to be on the same playing field. So anyway, couple ideas for how Star Wars could advance beyond the Skywalker saga. Could explore all of those more. We have plenty of time to do that. But anyway, I thought it'd be fun to, just spitball a few ideas. So let me know which ones you think are interesting, or if they're all like crap and you're sitting here going, thank God that Tyler is not have the voice or doesn't have the ear of someone at Lucasfilm, because if Tyler had the ear at someone at Lucasfilm, we'd all be doomed and Star Wars would be dead. Although there would be some people out there that would tell you Star Wars is dead already. I am not one of those people. That is not this day. That is not this podcast. And it never will be, because I am here always for Star Wars. Now, let's talk about Rian Johnson for a minute, okay? Obviously, if you have been following Star Wars Newsnet for some time, whether it be on via our website or listening to a number of shows that I've done for the last couple of years, you would know that Rian Johnson's trilogy, of course, was never going to happen, but now we finally had him say it himself. And I just think it's funny that they announced this before The Last Jedi even came out. And that was something that I think they will always look back on and regret, because as much as there is anticipation for a new Star Wars movie every single time one airs, whenever you get a saga film, the buzz around the saga film is so intense. It is so palpable that you can almost taste it, right? Like, you can remember, every single Star Wars fan has vivid memories of a time where they were building up to a movie and how excited they were. And then imagine days before you go see the brand new Star Wars movie, the middle one of the saga, and you're thinking back to the days of old when we had Empire Strikes Back, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, like we have another, middle of the road in this trilogy. What is going to happen? Star Wars is back. And then you hear that the guy who just made this movie has already been signed on to do 3 more films, his own trilogy. You're probably thinking, like I was, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest movie that I have ever seen in my entire life. And while I love The Last Jedi, it's certainly not the greatest movie I've ever seen my entire life. And what happened was it sent Star Wars into what some people might consider to be the cataclysmic event of its entire lifetime. And I don't think the Star Wars fandom has ever recovered from this to this point of the division of The Last Jedi. Now, personally, Massive fan of The Last Jedi. It's probably my second favorite Star Wars movie. I said that, yes. I think it's maybe the cinematic, from a cinematography standpoint, maybe the most beautiful movie of all. But the fandom definitely was divided on this one. We all know this. Like, any Star Wars fan knows the story of The Last Jedi and how divided the fandom was and has been. But Ryan does talk about that in this interview, where he talks about how the fandom, he was just interesting. He said how he hated the prequels when they came out. And he said how he was leading that group of people that was like, oh, the prequels are, they're shit, they're terrible. Like, we hate them, all of those things, which is just interesting that now he would author the movie that is the version of Phantom Menace when it came out, right? That everyone was divisive on and hated or loved immensely. Like, it was just so middle of the road. But I thought it was interesting, and I'll go ahead and get that image off the screen. I think what's interesting about what Ryan Johnson said, though, too, is that he said he's not saying that to say that the prequels, just like the prequels, The Last Jedi is going to be so beloved in 20 years. But he just said that is interesting when you think about the way that these things work. And it's almost part of the journey of being a Star Wars fan, is having these intense opinions and having these debates and these talks as they come out. And it's interesting that when Ryan talked about this trilogy, that he said that he never even had a fully fleshed out idea for the trilogy. There wasn't some planned out story concept. Sound familiar, right? Sound familiar? And for them to announce that, it seems like such malpractice for them. Just bad business in general, to announce that you're gonna, before the movie comes out, that you're gonna have a trilogy by the same guy. You don't even know the full story of what he's proposing, or you don't really have an idea of what's happening. It just seems like such bad business on that part. And that's one of the great sins of Kathleen Kennedy's time at Lucasfilm. And I'm, again, most of the time, a Kathleen Kennedy supporter, because there are a lot of great projects that have happened because of her and that would have never got off the ground without her, like an Andor, or like Rogue One, or like the sequels in general. So all that to say that it was finally nice that we got to hear from Ryan Johnson himself some clarity, so to speak, on the greater part of what happened and where they're at now, and to kind of have the official word of, yeah, that's done, it's over, we're not going to see that anymore. And I appreciated that, because it seems like we can finally put that behind us, and maybe as a fandom can finally start moving beyond whether or not you like The Last Jedi or not. Because believe it or not, if you don't like The Last Jedi, you can still be a Star Wars fan. And believe it or not, if you like The Last Jedi, you can, guess what? Still be a Star Wars fan. So here we go. Case closed. It's over. Moving on. Yada, yada, yada. So last thing here before we get off, we got about 15 minutes here. San Diego Comic-Con is coming up, and George Lucas is going to be there, which is so exciting that George is making an appearance. It's probably going to be one quick panel, an interview, and then he's gone, right? As much as people are wanting to talk about George Lucas, for the nerdiest nerds of them all, those of us here that love to get down in the weeds in Star Wars, dig deep into the trenches of everything that the Star Wars fandom has to offer. If you are one of those people like myself, you are extremely curious at what this Star Wars Lucasfilm publishing panel has in store for us, because if you follow Star Wars books and you're a big Star Wars book fan like myself, who reads all the things pretty much, I just finally have Mask of Fear from Alexander Freed downloaded my Kindle to read. It's the latest one that I haven't got to. I'm doing a lot of High Republic stuff, obviously. Just finished Trials of the Jedi. I'm going to talk about that again at the end. But if you've been following publishing initiative for Star Wars, you know that the High Republic is over. Trials of the Jedi has come out. The last comics are rolling out, and I'm sure they have some ideas, and based off of how the novels and some of the comics are ending, there is room for some more like one-off stories, or to explore a little bit more in that galaxy. Absolutely. Do I think they're going to go straight there right now? Probably not. They might have a couple stories here or there, but the next big initiative is yet to be announced. And so I have two ideas of where I think the next Star Wars publishing initiative is going to go. I was talking with, our head of our like publishing initiative that we do here at Star Wars Newsnet for reviewing all the books and comics that come out. I was talking with Nate. So if he's been on the pod before, you should go, listen to some of the interviews that he's done. Go read a lot of Nate's reviews. Nate is a fantastic writer. If you have never read something from Nate, you should go read it, because anytime you read a review from Nate, you can feel his personality coming out, but you know that he has done just a great job. He just does a great job of diving into what the themes of the book are and how the book both made him feel, how he felt like the author was trying to make us feel, and tying all those together in great reviews. Anyway, so go check that out for Nate. Nate's the best. Anyway, so we were talking about what we think the next publishing initiative, and he brought this up, and I have to 100% agree with him. With the Mando and Grogu movie coming out next year and Ahsoka season 2 coming out next year, it feels like we're going to have to get the Mandoverse publishing initiative that we have never gotten. And so I wonder if we're going to get a series of books from the Mandoverse right now, maybe featuring Mando and Grogu, Din Djarin and Grogu on some adventures. Maybe we have the Thrawn Ezra books set in Peridia, and we learn a little bit more about this other galaxy. We learn a bit more about what happened when they got there. I wonder if we have a book that could tie in some gaps of what happens when Sabine and Ahsoka are there before Ahsoka season 2. I'm not saying that that's 100% happening. I'm saying it's possible. They might announce some books that are going to come out after Mando and Grogu that might come out around the same time as Ahsoka season 2. There's the Rangers of the New Republic show that got canceled, that never really happened. There's probably some stories that could be adapted into some books. We have the New Republic itself. There's some stories that we can tell here. And if you think about some that take place in the same similar timeline, like Bloodlines, if you have never read Bloodlines by Claudia Gray, it's one of the best Leia books you could ever ask for, because no one writes Leia as well as Claudia Gray. But there's ways you could build off of those stories, and you could have a Mandoverse timeline here. And I wonder if, because that's the next movie that comes out, if that's going to be the initiative that they go for. That's probably primary number one of what I'm thinking is going to happen. What I would like to see happen, and I'm not sure if they'll fully go there yet, because I would be sequel content after Rise of Skywalker with Rey, with Finn, with Poe, with our favorite sequel characters, and really just dive into the lore of brand new things that are happening beyond what any of us have ever seen before. Now, I don't think they will ever do this until they figure out exactly what they're doing with the Rey movie, because like we've seen from Star Wars, and I've battled with some people on this before, because I have actually really enjoyed a lot of the publishing initiatives that have taken place over the last, 5 or 6 years. However, there could be a case, and I think it's justified from those people that would have this point of view. It's justified that Star Wars is afraid of taking big swings with its books and comics, because they're so afraid of telling a story in one of those books or comics that they might want to tell on the big screen, or they might want to tell on Disney Plus. Or they're so afraid that if they tell it in this book or comic, they're going to make people mad. They might change how the story goes and retcon, some of the stories in creating, something else for Disney Plus or a movie. And they just don't want to touch any of the big stuff. That's why we're not going to get the Rey book before the Rey movie, I'm afraid. That's what I'm worried about. But maybe they realize that, hey, with our ancillary material, our comics, our books, we have a very devoted fan base. And there's also a large group of people that have kind of checked out, because they've felt, as great as the High Republic is, that it wasn't building on the lore that they were familiar with. And perhaps if you dive beyond the Rise of Skywalker, you can create some familiar characters, some familiar story beats but you can expand the lore in unique ways. Go ahead, just do something crazy with Peridia. Do something where we learn just the aftermath of the Rise of Skywalker. Have it take place 6 months after Rise of Skywalker, and how Rey is beginning her journey into the new Jedi Order, because your movie with Simon Kinberg is going to take place years after that. Go ahead and set the stage for it. Give people who do read everything a little bit of exciting content that really matters in the Star Wars timeline. Not because not every Star Wars book is created equal, of course. Now, I say that as High Republic's my favorite book initiative, maybe of all time. So if you love Star Wars, check out the High Republic. I feel like you'll enjoy it, most of it. And RG says the Thrawn canon books come in mind. How Thrawn is a bit different so far, and how he's portrayed on screen. Absolutely, that's a great point. But and we're reading that too, and from Thrawn's perspective with his people, and then now we're getting him in the Empire, and there are some people that are a little bit confused and frustrated. I'm not one of those people. I think I can make that jump from those what I see in the books to the character I see on screen. But again, makes perfect sense. So last thing, two things. One, I finished reading the Bad Batch Sanctuary book that comes out in August. My review is going to come out next week for that. And so stay tuned for that. I love the Bad Batch, so it was fun to read that story. So go ahead and pre-order it. I think it'll be worth your time. Well, I'll talk about it more in my review, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more in the weeks to come. And then lastly, Trials of the Jedi. We're gonna do I want to do a spoilerific conversation on this, but I need to have all the High Republic people with me in order to do that. Like I need to get my boy Luke for the timeline show. My boy Luke, who is not here right now. I need Luke to join me because we got to talk about Trials of the Jedi. And I'm gonna call Luke out for a minute because we're reaching the end. So those of you who watch the timeline show, we're going through every single story in Star Wars from start to finish. So the timeline show literally is every single story there is on the timeline. We go every book, every comic, every manga, every short, every show, every whatever it is, every one shot, whatever, everything that is told in canon right now, we are going through in as close to timeline order as we can, or we make it make sense. So Luke is my partner in this journey, and he was supposed to call me yesterday and the day before that to talk about Trials of the Jedi because I finally finished it. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'll call you after work." Guess what? I got ghosted by my best friend, ghosted on my confidant for all things Star Wars, completely ghosted. Where is he? I know he's getting married in a little while, but that's no excuse when you have Trials of the Jedi, the most cosmic ending imaginable for some of these characters. Some mind-bending, forced stuff is going on, and the High Republic has been such a fixture of my life for the last few years. I have read there's a few comics that I haven't got to in Phase 3 yet. But because of the timeline show and because of my overall interest in the High Republic, I have read pretty much every single thing that's come out. That's a lot of stuff. So the fact that then it was over, it kind of left this gaping hole. It's like when you finish a TV series and you are trying to figure out what to watch next. It kind of felt like that. And I finished this book series and I'm wondering what's next after this? Like, where am I going to go afterwards? Because I love these characters. I love everything about this world so much, and it felt so personal to me, like nothing had felt since I was a little kid, like 5th grade, finished the last Harry Potter book as a child, but this one it gave me like that sense of childlike wonder again, but also with all of the themes as an adult that I'm trying to navigate life with, and being able to resonate with these characters in Star Wars that provide that escapism, but also provide those life lessons that Star Wars is all about too, in this overarching story about what happens if the Force itself is destroyed. So if you haven't read the High Republic, I recommend doing that. Timeline show is a blast. We just recorded the last episode was episode 50 that is out, and that's Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older, one of my favorite High Republic books, and it's so underrated. It was fun that Daniel Jose Older actually watched a few of the clips, and he said he enjoyed it. So that was fun that he commented back with us, and we've been able to interview like a High Republic author a couple times, and so I'm excited to keep on that journey and continue moving through. And I'm really excited the fact that I don't have to say goodbye to the High Republic yet, because we have the timeline show, and I get to finish Phase 1 in a couple weeks, and then we're going to dive into Phase 3 soon. And that's exciting for me because I feel like I don't have to say goodbye to these characters that I love so much yet. I get to keep exploring with them. Although my dad is making me mail him. This is for those of you who have, parents that are into Star Wars or into things. Isn't it crazy? My dad, who is my dad's a school principal, right? And of course, he's looking to retire soon. So he's going to have to scale back on his purchases and scale back on the things that he holds, that he buys, right? Yet his son, myself, who is a school teacher, right? Making the big bucks as a school teacher, right? He said, "Can you ship me your copy of the Trials of the Jedi so I can read it?" Now, my dad, pretty much I buy all these Star Wars books all the time. Because I love collecting the Star Wars books because some of the covers are beautiful. And so every time my dad visits, he lives in Oklahoma. I live here in Florida. And every time we visit, we make an exchange. But it's really not an exchange of me acquiring something from him that I want and me giving him something he wants. No, it's an exchange of me taking back the last 2 Star Wars books I gave him and then me giving him the new 2 books of Star Wars that he needs. And I pretty much been passing back and forth all the High Republic books with him. But now I got to mail him Trials because he can't wait till October when I see him again to get it, which makes sense. But I'm thinking to myself, don't you want to own one High Republic book if you've read all of them? Maybe you want to buy one? He did offer. I say all this. He said, "Don't worry, I'll pay for the shipping for it to out of inconvenience you." So I guess I was a little bit misleading in my build up there. But the fact this man just won't buy a High Republic book for himself. Come on now, like just buy yourself a High Republic book. Buy Trials of the Jedi. We need more people to buy them so then we can have more stories, right? More Star Wars books is a good thing. Buy them. Anyway, so that's that. Thanks everyone for hopping in today because we have Timeline Show episode 51, which was Mission to Disaster. Luke and I have already recorded it. I'll probably put that out this weekend, so be looking for that. We'll be back for Star Wars Newsnet Live next week with hopefully Tom and Luke will be back. I don't know if Luke will be around the rest of the month. The man's getting married in a month, y'all. He's busy. He's a busy guy. I'm looking forward to the new school year starting so I can request off to go to that wedding. Can't wait to be there for my guy. But Tom, he's on vacation right now. So he's hiking a mountain or camping out in a mountain, camping somewhere in the wilderness. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. You won't catch me out there unless it's in a nice air-conditioned cabin. I'll say that. And anyway, so Tom hopefully will be back next week. At the very least, the 2 of us can go. And Tom and I have a very fun project that we are going to announce hopefully next Thursday that we have been working on, and we'll need input from everyone else in the Star Wars Newsnet sphere. So I'm looking forward to talking about that next week. And we have a fun episode we're going to do. And then maybe I can get another podcast in before next Thursday. I don't know. Maybe Tom will have something we can talk about or he really wants to share. We can do that. Go listen to Deep Space Cinema 5. Miguel and I gave our top 10 films of the 21st century. So you can go check that out. Our top 10 lists are extremely different and we come at those lists in extremely different ways. But thank you, everyone. I hope that for those of you who were listening, you enjoyed this, even though it's just me by myself rambling tonight. I hope that you got something out of the ramble. You enjoyed it to some degree. Remember to hit that like, subscribe button. We'll see you next Thursday, probably around 10 o'clock Eastern time, the normal time. Since I was by myself, I kind of got to play dictator on what time we started. And since I got to go to a work conference tomorrow, very early in the morning, I said, why don't we just start a little hour early? But actually, I'm probably going to stay up late anyway because Strange New Worlds episodes 1 and 2 for season 3 just dropped. So I'm not getting any sleep anyway. So you guys know, follow me at TyBread5 on Twitter or X, I guess, as is what it's called now. For Light and Life, everyone, remember that we are all the Republic out there. See you next week.